Brightest Blessings, everyone. Psychic medium Elizabeth Grove, the Paranormal Priestess. Welcome to the Paranormal Priestess YouTube channel, and if you are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Elizabeth. I am a medium, divine channeler, remote spirit extractor, white witch, and divine alchemist, and I also happen to be a divine feminine on the path of ascension. Coming to you straight from the spirit chair, let's talk about some things that are coming up that are important for you to know if you are on the ascension path, if you're on the twin flame journey. So I know it's been such a rough October. I really hear you guys. October has had some really challenging energies. The retrograde, right? Mercury retrograde takes us backwards to move forward. So revisiting so many of those old memories, those old hurts, those old pains, having to feel it again, having to have those other layers come up to the surface, also having to contend with things like communication issues, right, with people, or traveling issues, or computer issues. It's not a fun time, right? But it really does bear its gifts. It really does give us a really profound opportunity to be able to shift, to be able to transform our stuff, to take on more light. And I know that sometimes people come to me and they feel stuck at that time, and I really get that, because it gets us to really just stop and have to go back, right? And we feel like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not getting anywhere, maybe I'm not doing things right, maybe things are never going to happen for me, maybe this is not really destined. And we tend to sometimes get into those negative stories and those negative beliefs, but those, my friends, are the things that we want to be able to address, what could be sabotaging our life, what could be limiting us. This video in particular, I want to talk about the full moon in Aries, which is coming up on the 20th. And this particular moon is the moon that comes before Halloween, or is otherwise known as the Celtic Samhain. And this time of year is so much about the veils being thin. If you live in the northern hemisphere, that is, for Halloween. If you are in the opposite, if you're in the southern hemisphere, that's going to be more of the Beltane, more into that summer. But it is a time both ways where the veils are very thin. But in the northern hemisphere, it signifies us going into the dark half of the year, going into winter, going into slowing down, reflecting, going within. It's also a time when we really can connect with the other worlds, the other realms, and our ancestors and our guides far more easily. And this particular moon will help to do just that. So this moon is called the blood moon. It's known as the blood moon. And the blood moon really does help us to connect with our bloodlines. And for many of you who watch my channel, I know that you are on the ascension journey, you're on the twin flame journey, and that journey is all about us being able to heal and to become our best version, dropping the density, taking on more light, and then paying it forward to Gaia and helping Gaia as we help lift Gaia into her light. It's all about going into the fifth dimension, the 5D dimension. So let's talk about how we can recognize this moon, work with this moon, maybe some things that you have heard before, maybe, and there's going to be a little bit more extra information. You might want to like this video, maybe save it, go back to it later, maybe pass it on to a friend, pass it on to somebody who might be struggling on their ascension or twin flame journey, because this is very relevant. So it's not a tarot reading, it's not getting into the heart space and the head space of divine feminine, divine masculine, but this will help. This will help to do the work. And let me tell you, the ascension journey, which is also the twin flame journey, is all about doing the inner work and helping you to get back to you and help you to really connect with Source and to unify, become that unity, unifying with all. So let's see. Let's talk about this. So the bloodlines, right? The bloodlines. So many of our ancestors have gone through so much, right? And throughout history, it's been a very 3D time. Okay, there's been things like war, there's things, violence, plagues, of course, right, where a lot of history repeats itself. We know that. But our ancestors have gone through very traumatic times of their own. There's things like World War, things like the Great Depression, where our ancestors have felt that they didn't have many choices, where they were very fearful. Perhaps they had limited views about connecting with God or how they viewed God. Maybe they were suppressed by religion, religious guilt. Perhaps they were in abusive marriages, abusive situations, right? And they didn't feel like they had any choices. They had to stay for financial reasons or to please the family. And so there's a lot of the power struggles, a lot of the control issues there. There's so much that our ancestors, our generations have been through, where it's been very, very hard. And so many of the emotions that our ancestors have been through, the emotions and the very low thoughts, that becomes dis-ease, and it does end up affecting our DNA. It ends up affecting us. Those things do carry over from the bloodlines, and we take on so many of our ancestors' emotions, beliefs, negative stories, and even their patterns. Even if you know a little bit about your ancestors and not going way back, even if you know that, hey, maybe you have, unfortunately, you grew up in a very dysfunctional family, maybe you have been abused, there was fighting, or there was divorce, or there was violence, or whatever those challenges were, which were really hard on your inner child. It creates a lot of those wounded child issues. So many times the way it is that things get passed down. So your parents, they have gone through very rough times too, and perhaps they were abused by their parents, and there was aggression and violence there because of just a lot of the situations that had gone on. The imprints they create, these really, really difficult emotions, really difficult imprints of memory, of visions, of sounds that are traumatizing, and we carry these things, could imprint ourselves, right? And we want to be able to, on this journey, to really be able to no longer keep these patterns from the ancestors. We want to be able to carry the good things from our ancestors, carry the gifts, the positive aspects. But the rest of it, we want to actually pass on better things to our descendants. So working with the bloodlines and clearing is really, really important. Okay? Our ancestors, have had situations where they have felt like they were hopeless. They felt like they were helpless. Okay? They felt like a victim. All the aggression and violence that's gone on throughout history, even things like prejudice. I mean, it's been absolutely, crazy what Gaia has gone through. And, we want to be able to create a better place here. We want to be able to create a better earth. And I do absolutely know that even though it may not seem like it right now, that Gaia is at this turning point, and all of you are at this turning point where all of this stuff is coming up, but it's always darkest before the dawn. Okay? So let's talk about how we can clear some of these things: the hurt, the pain, the victim consciousness, the feeling resentful, the feeling hopeless and helpless, the violence and the war. Okay? We want to recognize that we no longer want these things to be affecting our DNA. We no longer want this to be affecting our layers, levels, and dimensions of us. Okay? For many of us, we have had different cords. We have had different negative cords. Okay? Negative cords, negative agreements with actual people on our bloodlines, which is interesting that we don't sometimes realize that, but negative cords can develop. We want to be able to dissolve any kind of negative cord, any negative thread, or any hook of energy that is with anyone on those bloodlines, matriarchal and patriarchal, which is affecting us in an adverse way. If we've had anything like contracts, or agreements that have kept these cords in place. If there are any programs connected or backup programs or recreation programs, often these things exist. We want to be able to release all of those, okay? Dissolve all of those cords, renounce, okay? Clear it out. Many times programmings do come with keeping negative cords in place, and agreements are in there as well, agreements and contracts and vows. We want to make sure that anything like that is released, okay? Yeah, there have been lower interferences that have been within these bloodlines as well, and that's something to realize, which I know some of this is kind of out there to think about. But our mother line and our father line have been in this lower vibratory state. They've been within actually the lower karmic grid of the earth. And for us, we want to align with those two ascension grids. So the Christ grid, okay, Metatron holds that great central sun grid. From the heart chakra above and the heart chakra below, we want to be grounded not into the old karmic grid of the earth, but we want to be grounded within the new 5D crystalline grid. Okay, and we want to help our ancestral lines to actually raise up from this lower karmic grid into this new crystalline 5D grid. Okay, so that way we are not carrying through anything lower that's bleeding through from those bloodlines. We're only carrying through the good, the positive aspects, and that way we'll pay that forward. So we're not going to continue those patterns. We're not going to continue those limiting fear-based stories anymore to our descendants, because we're not here for that. We're here to ascend. Lower interferences can absolutely happen on the bloodlines. Okay, a lot of it absolutely does show up with health. Okay, with the genes. DNA, genes. So I can't get into every single nitty-gritty with this video, but I'm just trying to cover as much as I can to just give you ideas as things that can definitely show up there. So with the lower interference, we can have things like negative elementals, okay, within the bloodlines, absolutely. So mother line and father line, okay? Again, we got to think earth, right? Negative elementals, yes, they can absolutely be there, and we want to be able to clear those out, have them come off those lines, because that can, and those negative elementals, so earth, air, fire, and water, can that create imbalances within you? Of course it can. Can it create dis-ease? Yes, it absolutely can. All right, so we want to clear those lower negative elementals off those lines, and we want to have those elementals of earth, air, fire, and water from the crystalline grid, from that 5D grid, actually come on board within those bloodlines. Okay, that's going to be a lot better. Do we normally have to clear things from our genetics, such as alien interference? Yes. So many of us that are on this path, we relate to being a starseed, and with that comes a lot of interference that can happen. And yes, we can have things like negative AI or alien interference within our DNA, things like alien experimentation and hybrid experimentation and implanting and devicing. I know, very sci-fi, but it definitely does happen. I've seen it many times before as I've done clearings, extractions for people. And so we want to make sure that any type of implant, any type of device that is coming from the bloodlines, that be cleared, that be removed, along with any types of agreements or vows or contracts that have allowed for that interference to happen. And we want to make sure that any programming, backup programming, or recreation programming that comes with these types of implants or devices, that they be cleared as well. They usually all come together in that one package, and we want to get all of those out of both the mother line and the father line. Okay, things like negative seals, like negative religious seals, negative AI seals, satanic and demonic seals, it can absolutely happen. Can we have satanic and demonic luciferic types of interference within the bloodlines? Yes, we can. Can there be rituals or bloodline curses within our bloodlines? Absolutely, there could be. So we want to always, keep in mind that with these things, there could be contracts, there could be agreements that are keeping that in place that we want to release. We want to cancel these contracts. There definitely could be cords or threads or hooks that are keeping a lot of those things in place. We want to release those or dissolve those. And we also want to make sure, again, that any programming, any backup programming that can be there as well, hidden programming, or any recreation programming, that's all cleared out. Okay? And yes, there can be hidden implants and hidden devices as well. All we need to do is intend that those be removed. Okay, so just keep all of that in mind, that we want to be able to have these bloodlines be cleared of these interferences. Okay, something to keep in mind also when you're doing the bloodline clearing is that some of the permissions or some of the agreements or contracts, they may not be conscious. They're not always conscious. So some of these actually have been unconscious, where say you've made an agreement with someone on the bloodline or a dark being or dark group on the bloodline, and it's been a very unconscious thing. Okay, you're granted your permission over, gave your power over unconsciously. So you can just intend that if you've had any agreements or contracts or promises that either unconsciously or consciously, that you release those, renounce those, cancel those. Okay, so these are just some more specific hints for you as you're clearing out bloodline interference. What I love working with, I love the ultraviolet fire angels. I used to work with the violet flame and the violet flame angels extensively. They're wonderful too and very powerful. But if you're looking to work with a dispensation, which is really extremely powerful, able to dissolve many cords at once, being able to really cleanse energy very powerfully, as well as seal and shield energy very powerfully too. The ultraviolet fire is fantastic. Okay, you can actually send that ultraviolet fire down your bloodlines. It's a great way. Not only can you cleanse your being, all your chakras and layers, levels, dimensions, all your bodies, get into all of the organs and systems and all layers, levels, dimensions of your physical body. You can cleanse all of that with ultraviolet fire, but we can also use the ultraviolet fire to cleanse our bloodlines, our ancestral lines, which is great. So you can just visualize that you are sending, and you can intend that you are sending the ultraviolet fire down your mother line, down your father line. You can do it 7 generations. You can do all the generations if you wish. And you're going to cleanse out and dissolve anything lower. Okay, you can intend that you're dissolving all the hurt, all the resentment, all the victim consciousness, all the angers, all the violence, all the grief. Okay, anywhere where there has been lower emotions or lower density on these lines, that you are intending that this ultraviolet fire is going down into the past and cleansing and dissolving all of this, including any and all lower cords with any people on the bloodlines, any dark groups, any dark alien interference, any luciferic, satanic, or demonic interference, and you're dissolving all of those cords. Okay, this will help tremendously. Okay, it's going to help you, of course, it's to help you move forward and not carry this energy from the bloodlines, and it's certainly going to help your bloodlines. Just to kind of keep this in mind, that with the 9th chakra, some people say this is the 9th chakra, some other people don't really give it a number at all. The 9th chakra usually is above the head. Here with the 8th chakra, which is the soul star, which is the gateway. But the 9th chakra, or if you don't wish to give it a number, you don't have to, but think of the earth star, okay? The earth star, which is beneath your feet. So we have our base chakra, but the earth star is about 8 to 12 inches below our feet, and that's actually where the ancestral energy, where we connect with Gaia, where we really ground into Gaia. This is that connection with Earth. It's also our connection with our bloodlines. Okay, so if you seal up that area with the ultraviolet fire, that really disallows any kind of negative energy, a lot of negative energy from coming through from the bloodlines, okay, when you're doing your work. Just, a hint there that I have learned. But you are going for really cleansing these bloodlines, okay, getting rid of implants, getting rid of devices, getting rid of also anywhere where there's been negative alien instructions for your DNA or your RNA. Okay, anywhere where they have manipulated the DNA, anywhere where there's been experimentation with the bloodlines or with the DNA, clearing out any seals, okay, clearing out any negative elemental energy, the cords, the contracts, the agreements, the emotions, the thoughts, and all of that. Okay, so that's just to make sure that it's clearer for you. We want to move those bloodlines out of the old grid and into that new grid. Remember, that's what we want to do. Okay, so you can ask for that to happen, for your bloodlines of your father line and your mother line to be moved out of the old karmic grid of the earth and bring them up into that crystalline energy, which is that diamond white, or you can also picture silver if you were silver white energy of the 5D earth grid. Okay, this will help so much. Other easier ways of doing it too, I really do recommend this. This is getting more into the details where you're clearing the bloodlines, but even something as simple as if you are recognizing a pattern that's coming up, or a behavior, or a story, if it reminds you of your mom, if it reminds you of your father, if there's something that you're putting it together and realizing this is coming from your family, you've seen your family or you heard your family have this before, you recognizing, even just sitting with those emotions, really embracing yourself and intending on processing it, being conscious that this is something that you've taken on that's really not yours, and then releasing it back to the universe, releasing it out of your fields and taking from the universe more light in. That will be so helpful. Okay, I actually recommend doing both. So you can do this full clear out, you can use the ultraviolet fire, you can renounce and dissolve cords and cancel contracts, and release the implants and devices and all of that. But even something as if it's coming up to the surface and you're recognizing that these patterns have really been from a family member or family members from your household, and that you are still continuing to limit yourself in the present with it, being conscious of it is really helpful. If you're not conscious of some things, then you may want to ask your team, your higher self, your iron presence in your team, to bring up to your conscious awareness any patterns from your ancestors, any emotions, any stories that are not serving you, anywhere where that can be actually intensified so you become aware of it, and then you can better work with that so that way you can release and you can heal. Guaranteed your ancestors are going to be really happy that you are carrying on in a way which is more positive, opening doors, living life a lot more fully in a higher vibration, having more opportunities, living from a state of bliss rather than feeling very limited or feeling like a victim, or feeling like, hey, this is just the way it is and that's it, or I'm just going to merely survive, or I made my bed and lay in it. Your ancestors will be so happy that you are carrying on in a way that they wish that they could have. If you'd like to light an ancestral candle for them, that would be a beautiful thing. You can light a red candle for them, or even a white candle. I feel like blood moon and Aries energy, lighting that red candle might be a great way to honor the bloodlines with that red color. That Aries fire. You can do that. You can even ask your ancestors within your team, right? They're on your team to help you and to guide you. So I hope this has been really helpful. Let me know. And I just want to let people understand, if you are new to the channel, that I am here for personal readings, and I do have slots that are open. They're opening up now actually for November. And I would love to be able to meet you and help you, to understand through communicating with your team what may be coming up on your journey. Okay, what may be limiting you if you're not aware of it, bring more clarity to your journey, have you understand more about your twin flame journey, more about your life purpose, and whatever other details that are important for you to know. And you can visit me on the paranormalpriestess.com. I will put all that information below my description, so please check that out. And thank you for leaving comments, and please don't forget to subscribe. And I am wishing you a very powerful, transformative blood moon in Aries. And remember, you got this, and your transformation is so beautiful. Remember, from the heart of the darkness is born the light, brightest blessings, and I will see you all soon. Take care.